What's up, guys? This is Jax from Jacked and Lean Coaching out of the Jacked and Lean Gym. And today we're going to start a new series. It's not your program, it's your form that's fucking up your results. And today we're going to go over your quads and why they're not growing, the common mistakes we see, and how to fix them the Jacked and Lean way. And maybe along the way, we'll get Jack some new shorts too. So today, obviously, leg extensions are a big part of quad growth and quad training. We're going to focus primarily on the things we see done wrong during squatting-based and leg press-based movements. So Jack, why don't you go and demonstrate the first thing we see wrong, which is people bouncing out of the hole. So as you can see, Jack is just dropping, kind of free falling through the motion and snapping out of it. Now you're gonna get a tiny bit of tension on the quads here, but it's not gonna be nearly as effective as it could be, and you risk some injury. So Jack, I want you to slow this shit way down. And what I want you guys to focus on is, as you're dropping down, taking a nice deep inhale, thinking about sinking through the reps, sinking through the quads, never letting that tension leave. It's very easy to drop, get it in some of your other connective tissue structures, and again, cause issues long term and take tension away from where you want. So if you think about just sinking through the rep, making that muscle take 100% of the load, we say if the muscle is not taking 100% of the rep is not worth doing. You guys will be amazed at how easily and how simply, this very simple cue blows up your quads. And if you want to make this extra gnarly, make sure at the bottom of the rep, you're taking a nice second pause, thinking about sinking through that motion just a little bit more, letting that quad really stretch over the knee and take that load before you come back up. And the second reason why your quads aren't growing during your squatting, pressing movements is because you're dropping too deep. Yes, I said that, but you're not staying in quads. You're dropping too deep and you're rolling into your hips, okay? So Jack, let's show them what I mean. So this typically comes from people having, number one, an incorrect setup. Their feet are just too high on the platform, and as you see, his lower legs fall backwards at the bottom of the rep. The second reason for this is because you're not mobile enough in the ankles and or in the hips, or you're not leaving enough room in the ankles or hips to start the motion with. So as you can see, again, Jack's lower legs are kind of falling back at the bottom of the rep. His hips are rolling through, and then ultimately when they try to come back into position, this is why people will have some low back pain during squatting as well. So Jack, let's show them how to do it right. So number one, if you have mobility, drop your feet down just a little bit lower. Two, as you drop down, think about keeping a little more pressure through the front of your foot, which is a tip I'll talk about on one of the later tips here. And then three, make sure that the start of the rep here, Jack, stand up quick. Number three, keep your ankles more open and your hips more open at the start of the rep. If you're starting with these more closed up, or you have a lot of pressure into the front of your foot at the start of the rep, that will inherently limit your mobility, even if you have the ability to move through it globally. So Jack will keep a little more pressure on the outside of the foot, his hips are open, and now see how he has more relative range of motion at each joint to move through, which gives him the ability to keep those knees tracking over the toes, therefore keeping tension on the quads. So the third thing you're doing wrong on your squatting, pressing motions that's limiting your quad growth is you are not allowing foot pronation or that arch to slightly press into the ground. You're staying too high on your arches. So Jack, let's go ahead and demonstrate this one. This is something I see a lot when people are taught like tripod foot early on in their training, which isn't wrong, but then they end up staying super high on their arches. They even maybe have really turned out toes, and you can get some outside knee pain as a result of this. We'll explain here. So as you can see, Jack is staying really high, and on the outsides of his feet, I could almost like slip my hand underneath his arch at the bottom of the rep. Okay, what happens here then is basically he's being, creating some restriction out here, which can cause some outside knee pain. We also see the inability of this ankle to dorsiflex, therefore we're limiting knee flexion. And like I talked about in the second point, then you can be dumping through those hips if you can't maximize that ankle dorsiflexion. So what I want you guys to do to fix it, and there are some drills we can do for this, but mainly it's going to come down to just being a little bit more intentional about it. So the way we like to coach this to start is to have you just kind of sense the outside back part of your heels here, like 70% of your pressure here, and 30% through the knuckle of the big toe. And then as you start to drop down, you're going to slowly shift that pressure and roll it. So you're more about 70% knuckle to the big toe, and you let that arch just gently gently pressure into the ground. A lot of people are afraid of like knee valgus and valgus, everything collapsing. I don't want you to just dive in, but a nice soft pressure as if there's something underneath your arch that you're kind of just lightly pressuring into. What that's gonna allow is this ankle to basically dorsiflex to the degree it needs to. The knee will flex to the degree it needs to, which stretches the quad, helps you stay in quad, and ultimately helps you grow your quads. And the fourth issue we see with people squatting that limits the growth of their quads is their basically hip shoot, really, which is they're not able to stay in their quads from the bottom of the rep up, and this is due to a couple things, mainly just too much load, too much ego. You get down there, your body goes, oh shit, and then you shift back and stand up, or you just have weak quads and you're kind of apprehensive to using them. You prefer to use your hips and then stand up. So just a bit of an awareness thing there, and then training that position will help that. So Jack, let's demonstrate this. So Jack will drop down, and what you're gonna see, let's say he's bending everything fine, getting nice and deep, but before he stands up, he shifts his lower legs back a little bit into his hips and then stands up through there. So initially, yes, he's getting some tension in the quads on the way down, but he's just not keeping it on there all the time. And like I said on point one, the goal is to keep tension on the muscle you're working 100% of the time, or it's not worth doing the rep. Okay, so then Jack, what I want you to focus on here now is, number one, obviously dropping the weight, if this is the reasoning. The second thing is, Jack, as you drop down, I want you to focus on, before you press, okay, you're keeping that, again, arch pressured into the ground just a little bit, that 70% of the tension kind of in that knuckle to big toe, and then driving through that kind of forefoot on the way up versus shifting into the outside of the heel. So Jack, stay in the forefoot and press on up. It's gonna make it harder. You're gonna need to take down your weight, but I guarantee your quads are gonna grow, especially those of you who have an issue growing the lower portion of your quads. It's because you're not getting deep and not making that portion work before you stand back up. So that wraps up 4 of the big issues we see on squatting pressing motions as to why your quads are not growing. So remember, you don't need more volume, you just need better movement. Fix these issues and watch your quads blow up. Stay tuned for more videos in this episode and from the Jacks at Jacked and Lean.